Hello, this is Video 10 in a series. If you have not watched the other 9 videos yet, uh, this is a series. You will be out of place if you just jump in here. So please, as long as that might take, please do that first so that you can get a good experience out of it. Just jumping in at this point, you'll just think I'm nuts more than you would anyway, and probably and just not have the background of what went on first. So, in the last videos, we've covered quite a lot of stuff. We've covered the leap into the eternities. We've covered trials by fire of having to actually deal with the long lifespans. We've dealt with dimensional things like what dimensions really are, how we're using them. We've dealt with the escapees and our start of the involvement in the Earth. And by our, I mean those on the other side. And I will often just say we and put myself with them just because I just naturally associate more with that part of myself. We all have that part of ourselves. Just knowing more about it like I do, I just naturally associate with that more. But on to video 10. So I'm going to try to make this a little more short and sweet because last time it was a marathon and I just don't have the time now. But, I mean, onto some question and answers. If you notice, I disable comments in my videos. That's because, I mean, let's face it, these videos are just not like anything you're going to see out there. I mean, there's just no way people are ready for this yet. My hand is forced. I need to, get this information out there. But comments are best just sent to me privately, and I will address them. I will address them by private email, or I will address them, on this video here as well for some certain comments. But one of the questions I had was about the, and I know I don't have that many viewers yet, but I already have questions. One of the questions is about the ancient races, the ancient race that our group came off. If you remember back when we made the leap into the eternities, what about the society we came from? If we were capable of moving into different dimensions, then were they too? And would they have been responsible for the South American stuff or some of the other stuff that's older than what our group has done? And I mean, the answer really is they haven't told me a lot about the other society. They really haven't. But from what they have told me, they had not been able to make an interdimensional leap by the time that we did. We were first. And they eventually wiped themselves out. Now, I did get it out of them that that the other group did learn to go into the natural dimensions before they wiped themselves out. Now, what does this mean in terms of did they ever come here? Well, if they did, you'd be looking at something between probably the 18,000 year mark to the 12 or 10,000 year mark, sometime in that range. I don't know when exactly that they wiped themselves out. I know it was violent. I know they used a lot of force. I've heard, the person asking me was asking about what about the India bombs, that supposedly there was some radiation and bombing in India like 12,000 years ago. You know what? I know nothing about that. It's plausible. Would they have wiped themselves out and brought it here? Only thing is, I know that the other society that we came out of did eventually get the ability to get to other dimensions. They did eventually, come to Earth dimension. But whatever it was, the cumulative total effect of it is really not that much because they're gone. They wiped themselves out. And they did so, a long time ago. Their dimension is torched now. I mean, it's just they were very thorough. And so, yeah, they're gone. And so, what does it really matter? In terms of South Africa, from the dates that I gather, um, they couldn't have done that. I mean, they didn't get the ability to do interdimensional stuff until well after the South Africa stuff is supposed to have happened. Now, who did the South Africa stuff? I have no idea. I mean, I get the only thing I get is it wasn't us, because that it predates anything from our group. So what does it really matter? I guess was it just humans being humans? Was it real aliens? Was it something later that they just put there and made it look like that? I don't know. The only thing I get is they say it wasn't us, and I guess let's leave it at that. It doesn't really matter. Our group was not around here on this dimension 30,000 years ago. Flat out, it wasn't. Anything from that time frame is either a hoax, a lie, a group that isn't here now, or potentially part of PSYOPs. Our group does a lot of PSYOPs. They do quite a lot of things that we're going to get into soon. And they're just part of the game, and it is a game. We don't really deserve the truth at this point as a society. And so that's why there's a game. And there's a lot of preparation for that game, including planting artifacts here and there and alien races and whatnot. We'll get into that. But all in all, let's get it wrapped up back into the general overview. I'm not covering everything. I'm not going to cover everything right now. There's time for question and answers. That's generally after we get through at least a general overview of what is going on. And so going back to the things, we had Christianity had just been started. Like I was saying, our group forced it on humans. The leadership didn't really want it, but it was forced on them. Didn't have a choice. But we made some compelling arguments, and they eventually saw that, even though they didn't really want this and it was forced on them, it did have some benefits in that it did lead towards a population that was easier to control. And so you have the time frame here also, like I said, that there were some genetic improvements going on. Now, I don't know for certain if it was just up, on our eternal bodies or down here, but what I do know is that the bodies that we come down to, well, down, it's not really down exactly because heaven is not, above us. It's literally in the same spot as us, but a different dimension. And if you'd missed it, what dimensions are, well, you just have to go back. But dimensions are, the very, very short summary is, at the very smallest, the atoms, they seem to go in and out of existence. They pop in, they pop out. But the energies there that make up the very small don't pop out of in and out of existence at all. They're on a frequency. They're on a wave type of a thing, not a longitudinal wave, of course. There's lots of other types of waves. We've kind of a pressure waves and electromagnetic stuff. But this type of wave means that those small parts of the atoms, they only interact with each other while they're on the same point in their frequency and in their wave. And the science to this hasn't even been invented yet. So I'm sorry, there's just no... there's a lot of stuff leading up to it that we just don't have words for. And I'm skipping over a lot of stuff that even I wasn't told about. But yeah, that's basically what dimensions are. So you have several different worlds right here. It's all the same atoms. It's all the same materials. It's the same everything. But it's not here at the same exact time. The things pop in and out of existence so quickly that, like a movie, we don't notice that we're popping in and out of existence, and it's so quick that our instruments don't even realize that as well, because they're also popping in and out of existence at the same time as us. And so, essentially, you have frequency A, frequency B, frequency C, and like I said, I don't know how many natural frequencies are, but there's difference between natural frequencies and the new or enhanced frequencies. And so what this basically goes back to is when we had the improvements in genetics around Christianity, the bodies that we have from the ones we start out we're born with over there have to be at least somewhat similar genetically to the ones that we have here. Not like way similar, of course, because we don't have the exact same races, like I said. But it can't be so distant of an experience that it's just not going to be applicable. I mean, you're certainly not going to want someone with an angel soul in the body of Hannibal Lecter or, Hitler or someone. You're just not going to want that. It has to be somewhat applicable to be a valid learning experience. Otherwise, there's going to be a disconnect. I mean, the idea is that we get an experience that is somewhat like what we would have if we stripped away the new improved patient genetics and augmentations and went like truly natural existence. So, in this era of Christianity, and not just Christianity, but enlightenment throughout the world, because our side likes to influence everybody that they possibly can that is willing to do the right thing. The genetics advancements over there did, at the very least, result in some enhancements over here, because even if it is only picking a better genetics out of the mix of what is possible, they still would have done that. So, like, if they take the different possible genetics but that one natural couple would make, they then would say, okay, well, let's get this one for this situation, and it's picked between all the available combinations that's there. They wouldn't have just made up something generally. I mean, they could have technologically, but just in terms of their laws, they wouldn't have done that. And so they arrange for the proper genetics to be arranged inside the mother, and then the kid comes out being a pretty fairly decent match to the more sensitive kids that were being born then. And of course, not everybody was more sensitive. There's the whole range. But these more sensitive people were helping make it to be such that over the long course of the time between Christianity's start and where we are now, it's more and more and more likely that questions of morality, questions of emotion, questions of lots of those things like that can have a better chance to take hold and really excite a good number of people in the society. Whereas you take life before then, and the people were still good. It's not like night and day difference. It's a subtle difference, but it's one that was important. I mean, the mass populace needed to be awake and to understand that they deserve education, they need education, they need to understand their role in society and their role with being a good parent, father, mother, brother, sister, cousin, or friend. They needed, and they certainly had all that stuff back then. They certainly really did. But we needed an advancement that people expected to have a place, and then that they demanded to have a place, because that was more fair. Because what we had before then was a lot of the rich and powerful basically just taking control. And a really good middle class was hard to get back then. And the technology advancement was needed because if you have only farmers, who's going to do the studying? Who's going to be making the technology? Who's going to be doing this? I mean, in order for that to grow, farmers need to know how to farm better. And then the people working on technology need to know how to do it better. Everyone needs to know how to do it better so that you can have more specialization and make room for a middle class and make time that's at least some free time where people are going to have to think. And not just free time of just sitting there in a farm waiting for crops to do whatever, just, without anything to do, but free time with access to learning and education and resources to be able to help jog your brain. And of course, I've said all this before, but this is the purpose of what we were striving for back then. And as the Dark Ages went on and went forward, you saw a spreading of Christianity, which was intentional, a spreading of the doctrine that it brought, and that really helped get everybody the sense of the entitlement that they have salvation and they have. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that it did that I just can't really explain right now very adequately, but it did help. Then you had a spreading of technology. Granted, there was a lot of stuff lost that they had back in the day, but in general, it was a step forward. And it took a little while to do, but it was a step forward. Slow and steady and back and forth. And one that I'll probably have to get into later, because it's not just an area with the dearth of anything happening. There was stuff going on. But like a lot of other people do, I'm just going to skip over the Dark Ages a lot because they're very important and they did a lot of stuff. And you have to understand they took us from where we were at back with pre-Christian stuff to where we were at in the enlightened times where we could have advanced technology coming out. So, I'm just going to skip around here because I've already told you the purposes of why the technology was there in the first place. Technology is there to support us being able to stop and think and have the time to do so. Now, the elite, the powerful of the earth, were always a problem. And so, if you see the purpose on why we were putting the technology there, I mean, you look back at what happened with Egypt. The leaders said, no, I want this, and I'm not going to share it. It's just not going to get shared because we have slaves. Basically, we want slaves, and we're not going to treat the populace fairly. We want them where we have them. They're ours, and you're not going to have them. And so that just blew up right there. Now, ever since then, the elite and the powerful in those days went on from basically taking what they were shoved and given with Christianity, and they turned it into what it is, with the keeping some of the guidelines that they were given and trampling over others. They helped to disseminate that, but they also held doggedly to their own beliefs. They weren't going to give those up. And the ancient mystery religions, as passed down from the random stuff that's taught that comes from older people that don't know anything about anything, just superstitious, paganism type stuff, mixed along with the things the escapees taught that really was valid, mixed along with a lot of clever individuals that were very determined to keep power over people. Yeah, the ancient mystery religions grew and kept popping out in times like you get the Knights Templar, you get popping in places like you've heard the Illuminati and to a certain degree the Masonic stuff. And the list goes on. That's no means that's by no means an exhaustive list. You can get the more complete histories other places. I'll just let you do that. Honestly, I don't follow too much about the specifics of what they're doing in those places because I don't really want to. Um, it doesn't really. The thing is, truth doesn't have to be way too complicated. And so, given all of what I'm trying to say, understanding the purposes and what I'm trying to say, you need to understand that the elite didn't want that. They did not want ease of use. They did not want a society that was fair. They were told about it and they said flat out, no, 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 no. That is the furthest thing from what we want. And so you get a bunch of people that are dead set on taking advantage, killing, and manipulating and treating the general populace as basically slaves as much as they can get away with. And you have our intentions to make the general population something that's educated and has opportunities to learn and thrive on their own, and to eventually be able to demand equal place in society. And those things are diametrically opposed to each other. And so you wonder why there's so much confusion. Well, it's because there has to be. The ancient mystery religions were complex when they started because there was this ritual and that thing that you had to do as well. And so what did we do? Well, we worked with it, honestly. I mean, what else are you going to do? We are not a magical race of people that can just blink anything into existence that we want or just snap our fingers and make someone listen. So some of us on the other side got very, very, very good at manipulation. I mean, very good. And if you see how many levels is there to the Masonic stuff, it's like there's 33 or supposedly. Then plus there's other stuff that's secret. And then how many levels there are to their secret doctrines? I mean, I don't know, but what I do know is it would take many lifetimes to learn it all. And you take this ritual and that ritual that you have to perform in order to get this result. Well, that was a natural part of their thing anyway. And we just sort of augmented that to make it longer and slower. And yeah, we help get them results. And you might say, well, how in the world can you do that? Well, it's because you have to think of it like we have to do the least possible harm and the most possible good. And with people that are as evil and as stubborn as the elite are, you got to do what you got to do. You've blowed up the doctrine that they have with as much crap as you can, and you make it as sacred as you can to them so that they get bogged down in a mire of religion that they wanted. They wanted a complicated thing. They wanted secrets that no one else knew. And so, of course, they get it. They get level after level after level of their doctrine that no one else knows. And they get slowly the privilege of getting more and more and more and more and more. And so that they can, turn their noses down at the rest of the poor fools that don't know as much as they do. All while the people above them are, turning their noses down at them. And so that's what it is. It's a complicated mess of a bunch of stuff that is the ancient mystery religions. It's a big blob of stuff that is almost impossible to learn at all. Because if you get a lot here and you get a lot there, and there's still some more here, and they're in places you just wouldn't know. I mean, people are given different things. And it works to slow them down. Ideally, they would catch on to the idea of being fair, but that's just not something that happened. And so that's what they were doing for the couple of thousand years since Christianity started, is they were getting deeper entrenched in their doctrines. They were getting better at hiding it. As you are aware, the fiasco with Knights Templar taught them to be secretive, because devil worship out in public is not going to be tolerated by a bunch of Christians. Of course, nor should it be, but from their point of view, I mean, they want to take advantage of the masses, and I mean, they just got to realize, though, the masses understand that they're not gonna like it. So, yeah, you have the secret ancient mystery religions that are infesting the higher ups. You also have DNA amongst the higher ups that are it's getting more corrupted and more inbred as time goes on. The inbreeding there from the start was bad, but one of the reasons for the inbreeding was because they have this whole thing about, oh, well, we, have alien DNA in ourselves. Well, I mean, come on. Yes, the escapees did arrive, and yes, they did have some fun with the natives. Yes, there is some genetics still from that time far back. But, I mean, come on. The genetics that were brought to them were not that powerful as to be able to just make them somehow better than everybody. The genetics between our two races is very, very similar. I mean, extremely so. And not to mention that, but we've taken some bits of, like I said, of genetics from here and applied it to ourselves over there as well, and when it's appropriate and works best. So it's not going to be this magical bullet to make you any better. And it's also not something that's going to just stay neatly in only the elite and no one else. You have genetics in a society. If you know how genetics work, even when you're trying to keep them all in the family, over the course of, thousands and thousands of years, in this case, I don't know exactly how long it's been since the escapees have been here, but it's been at least 6,000 to 10,000 years. Over the course of that time, you're going to have DNA that gets out and just to the general populace. And all of the thing that does inbreeding to keep the blue blood blue and to keep that alien genetics pure and to keep all of this stuff in the higher ranks, you're just going to do inbreeding. And they did for a long time. And not like maybe as much as would be completely disastrous, but over the course of the time and with what they did, it did have an effect. So they get their doctrine, which is inbred doctrine, because it's all they think about. They don't have enough. They don't have enough interests in other stuff to balance out their single-minded obsession, seemingly, to want to be unfair to the rest of us. So this is one of the reasons why their religion is so complicated as it is. But going back quickly to everything else here, going into the modern society, you're just going to have to extrapolate into a lot of the things that went on. Our side on the Eternal side did have a roadmap of things that it wanted to implement. It did work behind the scenes to help nudge this in the general right direction. What technologies they wanted to introduce, what technologies they didn't want to introduce, things like that. And I'm gonna have to go back to a lot more stuff later, but I covered the religion stuff. But what about our religion? I need to cover our religions more, and I need to cover UFOs more. So, I'm just going to cover UFOs right now because you've been patiently waiting, and I might as well cover that. It's related. Now, if you remember, there was a time when we came down earlier on and were very honest with the groups. We're very honest with Egyptians. We're very honest with people here and there throughout the world. And it blew up on us. It blew up in a big, big way. We were told where to go and how to get there, basically. And so, being honest didn't work. It absolutely didn't. Resoundingly didn't. I mean, And so you have a different plan, a different strategy. The different strategy was, well, if I can't be honest, let's do theater. And so we do theater. Do you think that we really need UFOs on the other side? No, we don't need them at all. We can travel just fine without a ship. Travel very well, thank you. But they're for theater. What about the bunch of us of alien races? It's the same exact reason why the religion is complicated as to why we have a lot of alien races. It's a chess game. It's a theater. You can't come down and just force people to do things. They're just not going to happen. But what you can do is give them the reality that they expect so that they can then fall in line with doing a little more of what they should have been doing anyway. And so in every single one of I understand. You can say, well, how in the world am I going to be the one person that says it's all fake? And you get how many people saying, oh, no, it's real, I've seen it. Isn't that a bit convenient? Well, no, I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, I can certainly understand that. Thing is, I'm right, for one. And two, there's always a tell. There's always some sort of a tell. If you stop, think, be patient, let your mind catch up. Bird-headed individuals with hands and stuff, it would have never evolved like that. Not in the natural world. You get the Greys, they wouldn't have been evolved like that. I mean, there's so many things that would have stopped it, right, from ever getting anywhere near that advanced. And once you are that advanced and really need a certain level of intelligence, why in the world would you make yourself have such thin arms? Do you think that's what we do up there? No, we're built. We have muscles like crazy, not like, like super ugly, like past a certain point. But, you get your definition of what you think is perfect, and certainly you can make a body like that. And it's going to tend to be more muscular and more fit and things like that, rather than noodle thin arms and a really big bulbous head. It's just how it's going to work out. I mean, then you get the reptilians. Their biology is just too slow to have evolved like this. It wouldn't have happened. Living in the center of Earth, it wouldn't have happened. There's always a tell that's put in there because to help people that are really honestly trying to search for the truth, think of and come back and say, wait, no, this doesn't seem right. But yet the greedy, when you get greedy and when you get too overzealous in things, your common sense gets overlooked and you tend to believe anything that's presented from you. Yeah, and I understand that if you're actually brought into a ship with Greys and see them for yourself and go flying around, that's going to be a pretty convincing sight. And that's going to make pretty much anyone believe it. But it doesn't mean it's true. And again, I understand. You could say, well, it's how easy it is for you to say, well, everything's not true. It's just all a game and all, just make-believe. Because you could say that about anything. Oh, well, everything is a dream. We're just going to wake up. No. But like I said, there's tells behind everything. Stop, think, feel. And maybe it'll be the right time for you to understand it, and maybe it won't. But what you will see behind everything is that it is far more beautiful than this. As much as you feel a great psychic connection to those random alien beings that come down here, it's not at all like what it is over there. Not even close. The people that are really behind that, it's a service project. You get your alien remote control bot thing, whatever it is, you're basically slip into your pod, and then now you're like an avatar, you're the alien now. And it's a service project. But one of the deeper, beautiful things about this is that real beings like that would not care as much about you. There's only so much any being is going to be prepared to do to really love and care for you if they have nothing invested in you other than just some sort of distant, oh, well, there's another person from another galaxy that we need to help as well. Yet one more. Cross it off the list. Okay, next. No. The people that are helping you out of love, helping you because you are a member of the group. And not just a member of the group, family. Our families up there are very strong. They're very tightly connected, and the hormones are extremely close. The bonds that you have are something that you would never, ever, ever, ever in a million years have with a group of random strangers. If you remember back to the eternities, you have to remember how long the eternities are. When you do not have a definite lifespan, in order to keep going, you need those connections. It is not enough just to have a general well-being in mind for another race to get this all done. You need to be tightly bonded, tightly connected with a group of people that means everything to you. And when you see and hear and think about anything from our side, our side, you can see that this is something that's meant to help. This is something that's meant to connect you. And so if you follow the paths of people like, Dr. Greer or others that want to get some sort of a connection like that, where that's actually going is it's connecting to your family up there, not your mother and dad that you know here. I mean, they're not your real mother and dad. Your real mother and dad are there, and they're much older and wiser and very, very close. There's not a billion people for every parent. It's pretty normal families, but they go deep and very close. So it's just a relationship that you won't be able to understand or comprehend. But as you get closer to it, it's going to go from something that is like this special experience where you feel like you've really bonded with another life form to eventually, once you really understand the truth and have opportunity to be over there and really get to meet the real people, it's going to be a tremendous experience and a tremendous relationship. And you're going to see how they helped you, and you're going to just have that much better of a bond and much better of a relationship. And so this is what it is for the good people. So for the bad people, what aliens are like, well, look at that Star Wars episode. I think it's the Empire Strikes Back, I think it was, where you have Luke going into the cave, and then he sees Vader, but then he gets, fights him and then gets the mask off, and it was only just a version of Luke Skywalker. Well, the aliens are like the cave. There's a lot of computers involved in this as well. The types of stuff that has to be done with the most brutal of the people down here are not things that even the most hardened of people up there are going to be willing and prepared to do. There are some cases when certain very limited AI is going to have to be involved, and essentially based upon what you bring to the environment, that is going to be what the environment brings to you. And that's because it has to be. The number one overriding thing is that we cannot have the world blow up. We cannot have the main part of society blow up. And you want to know why the main part of society is not at risk from ET? You want to know why that they've been saved so many times from nuclear war that we were so close from? I mean, look at how many times that our leaders wanted to blow us up. I mean, if you look, there was many, many times that you can tell. And I will tell you for a fact, I have been assured that there's a lot more times that you don't know about that you were saved from nuclear war as well. They have assured me of that. They have said in no uncertain terms, we have saved you a number of times. And as much as I have some differences between me and the other side that I'm going to get into, they have done that and they will do this. Their whole purpose in being is to create an environment for their kids. They don't want ultimately their kids to have too rough of an experience or just to be blown up completely. I mean, that's completely defeats the point. They have worked so hard over the thousands and thousands of years they've been here to create a middle class. Do you know how much work that went in to get the middle class? And, lower classes too as well, but anybody that has the ability to sit there and learn, do you know how long it's taken to get something like that? It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of planning, and quite a lot of sacrifice on everybody's part up there. They are not going to, in any way, shape, or form, let us as a group just be annihilated or turn into a complete robot slave group. This is not going to happen. They worked too hard to create the middle class. That is something that they will fight for and do anything that they have to do to protect when it comes down to it being completely wiped out. Granted, they are very patient and they'll let things happen here and there just because, we'll get into that later, but generally speaking, yeah, you can trust the ET. The real ET, you can trust them because that's what they'll do. Do not trust them if you are in the military or in one of the groups that is being controlled by the elite, because the military settings are different. Military get experiences for the military because they are in direct line of authority with people that are trying to blow everyone up. The military are not the nice groups of people that many believe they are. They are led by very strong, very powerful, and very bad people. And yeah, there are white hats there, and the white hats, our group knows who the white hats are, and the white hats don't need to worry as much. They don't need to. If you're a white hat and you're really working towards doing things the right way, have patience, and in time you'll get backed up. But you're not there as a white hat. You got to be careful. And even if you're a somewhat decent person but just trapped in the wrong spot at the wrong time, you might not have the best experience with aliens. But the thing is, it's part of the game. I mean, the military has to get the experiences the military has to get because it's the military, and it's fighting against us, basically. Now, going off in a separate topic as well, we're going to come back to ET and the plans for the future, because I didn't even go over what the plans for the future are yet. I just went over why they are the way they are, why there's so many different races, and why there's so much confusion. It's because, again, confusion is something that delays dropping bombs, delays weapons. The more confusion you have, the more of a chess game you have, the more you have to figure it out, and the more work it takes to sort through all of this stuff, the less you're having time to drop bombs. And also, it's a better form of intimidation. I mean, if you have only one species, one race that's there, no matter how powerful they are, you're going to be much more likely to go against them. When you have races from all over the galaxy visiting you, that's going to make you feel smaller. But the simple fact of the matter is there are not races from amongst the galaxy that are visiting us. Period. It's us. Every case. except for the case of when the military is faking it, because they do fake it. We'll go over the Black Ops programs in a minute, but probably another video because I have to get this ended. Now, other religions. There is a little bit that I know about Mormonism that I can tell you as well, and I don't want to turn anybody off. And if you are Mormon, then that's certainly nothing. I won't offend anybody, but I always want to tell the truth, and whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable, you're going to hear it. Now, in the start of the church, yes, there was inspiration there. Yes, Joseph Smith did get the Book of Mormon from divine sources. Absolutely. The Book of Mormon itself, where did it come from? Well, they had a hand in writing it. I mean, our side had a hand in writing it. And was it exactly what it pretends to be? Well, not exactly. Now, was there really a Nephi and Lehi that went out of Jerusalem and then went to the New World? I'm not sure. There could have been. There very well could have been. But the main point of the book was not about a real Nephi and Lehi. They could have been there. I wasn't told if there was, there wasn't. But what I was told flat out is this is a story that has to harken back to the times of the escape from our old society. It's a likening, it's an analogy, if you will, to the leap itself. Lehi and Nephi escaping Jerusalem as it was getting destroyed is like us making the leap and getting out of there before our society got destroyed from itself. You go through the book, and there's a lot of different references to things that went on for real, way back, and the more important things. So, like, for example, the ships that were dark, the older ones that not that Nephi took, but that the other group took, son of, or do I say, the brother of Jared and his group, the ones that were really dark and then only had one little light in them, the stones, those ones were representing how the process was of transferring the consciousness at first. It was a very slow, hard process, expensive process, time-consuming. I mean, it was really hard. And if you were the one being transferred from your dying body that you couldn't be saved to the new one that was part of that was left, then it was dark. There was little bits of light here and there, but it was a little bit more lonely and scary experience. Now, you take where Nephi goes up in the boat, the regular boat just on the water, everything's light, everything's good. That is more or less like it would have been a little bit later on, is that you transfer consciousness from the old body to the new body. Just there you go. You can see the whole time here, feel everything, and then there you go. It got a lot better. Now, other things that were a parallel. You have when Nephi and Lehi are escaping the Jerusalem city in that time, you have how Nephi has to cut Laban's head off. I mean, it basically has to kill Laban to get the brass plates, so that it's better that a small group can keep growing and grow. The big group, the small group that turns into this huge group, can keep going and have truth and righteousness and have the ability to keep on living in righteousness, than for the book just to keep being squandered by people that really don't need it. That was a reference to the fact that as we were going out and trying to get the leap in the first place, there were, in some cases, when there had to be, some people were killed from the old society that were not going to be cooperative, that weren't being cooperative, that were standing in the way of everyone living it was turning into something where everyone would just die together rather than some people can live. They didn't respond to anything nice. They tried and tried, but as with Laban, it's better a few people die than a whole massive society. And all of us in our society are here because of not just in the Book of Mormon, it's a story. I mean, the brass plates are there to help enlighten us and keep religion there. But in the reality of it is we're here at all because of the knowledge on how to get things done that contributed to making the leap possible. If it weren't for those actions and a couple of the people from the society way back then having to be killed for this, none of us would be here. I mean, the earth would have been very different. We'd still be in Stone Age. And our society, well, it wouldn't be. We would have been wiped out with everyone else back then. And so that's that part. And then you get the parts with how that ancient society that the Brother of Jared is part of, how it wipes itself out. And how everyone just gets madder and madder, and at the end they just don't care and they're completely without feeling. Well, that's a throwback again to the society that we came from, how it wiped itself out. It got so bad that they were without feeling anymore, and that's it. You know, they knew that they knew what they were doing. They weren't stupid. They had the ability to build the bombs. They knew what the bombs did. That's why they built them. But at that point, they were past feeling, and there was a lot of and other things in the book that were throwbacks is the constant war. I mean, humanity is war. I mean, you can look back at World War II and World War One and see about how and even the wars with after 9/11. And you could say, well, look at how artificial they are. I mean, if it weren't for the elites planning those things, I mean, look at how many people died. Well, yes, but our current genetics, war is war. I mean, it's going to happen. If it weren't World War II and World War I, it would have been something else. It's not right that they planned it. It's not right that they carried it out. It's not right that they lied about the whole purpose and they lied about what's going on. It's not right that even right now, none of us probably know everything that went on to bring that about. But if it weren't that, it would have unquestionably been something else, because our genetics are not advanced yet. Our society's not advanced enough yet to just avoid war, unfortunately. So that's a little bit about that. Other things in the Book of Mormon that were over and over and over and over taught to Joseph was beware of secret combinations, as they're called. Basically, secret societies. Don't join secret societies. How many times in that book is he warned? Over and over again. Over and over and over again he's warned. And then what does he do? He joins the Masons. One of the things about the LDS Church is you have to know is it's a mixed bag. And there's some of the most righteous, most kind, and most well-meaning individuals that are out there anywhere are in the LDS Church. It's a very good church. And you get people that will volunteer their time, not get paid anything, do that completely selflessly to help spread the Word of God. And there's a lot of true words of God there. But there is no such thing as 100% pure religion down here. And it's okay if one person listening is in LDS, another person is Catholic, another person is... I mean, come on, Catholics was how much paganism that was thrown into that. And then you get you get Muslim that was designed from the start to brainwash people, and you get the breakoffs from the Catholic Church that went into the Protestants and all that. Well, it's just basically a break off of Catholicism, and it took its own thing, and now it's complete different entity. I mean, no one is going to be perfect. No religion is going to be perfect. They all have a lot of flaws and a lot of bumps and warts. But in the center, for those who really believe and are really working on it, in wherever you're at, there is a deep connection such as that you will never ever forget if you've had it. And that deep connection, that purity, that kindness, that love that takes you to the next level is going to be there because of certain things in every one of those doctrines that is going to enable that for you. But going more into what happened with the Mormon Church, Joseph Smith did have a lot of inspiration. He was talking with authorized people from our side there and did receive a lot of stuff, but he was warned against joining secret combinations or secret society. And maybe you could say, well, maybe he didn't really realize what Masonic stuff would do. That's one thing. And, by itself, okay, well, maybe we can, just sort of look past it. But there was also the whole thing about polygamy. I'm sorry, but polygamy never, at any point, had been authorized. Not now, not in Solomon's time, not ever. It is completely contrary to how relationships work on the extreme long term. If you were only living for 100 years or so, yeah, what does it matter? Do whatever you're going to do and you're going to die anyway. In the extreme long range, it doesn't happen. That would be so completely anti what it would take for you to really be happy. He did that on his own. Sorry to say that he did that on his own, and he did that with some intentions that weren't pure. And so you also at that point in the early church have others that are not doing it for the right reasons, some of which are very revered to this day. And so as the LDS Church went on, its rocky start had a mix between very divinely inspired things that were put there for people that would be very good, as well as certain other things that, let's just face it, they're deal breakers for a lot of people. And as this went on, it got turned around in the right direction. And so you got prophets that knew what they were doing more, got things going in the right way. Now, what did this do long term? Well, if people understood, a general populace of this earth understood that the founding of the church did have some warts on it, then how many converts wouldn't have been converts? How many people joining the church just wouldn't have joined because of some things that couldn't be controlled anymore by the leaders that started it? That became a very easy way to threaten and manipulate the church. So, as much as it went in really good directions in many ways, it got some really good doctrines, and it went in some great paths. It is a very, very good experience to this day for a number of really good individuals, quite a lot, and it will teach you a lot of stuff. There is also a dark side to it, like everything else. And those dark influences in the world that, I'm sorry, do come from a lot around the Catholic Church I'm sorry, yeah, the Catholic Church was involved deeply from the beginning with the elite of this world. It was one of the arms of the elite. And sorry, but that's just how it is. But it, in its many, many different ways of reaching out, as well as not just that, but the elite in general, found ways to threaten the church. There were some prophets killed, granted when they were old and in subtle ways that most people missed. But the leadership of the church didn't miss it. And right now, you have a group that is very good and inspired at the local level many times to the level that you're able to be inspired due to your own perseverance towards the truth. But at the highest levels, there's a lot more threats and a lot more bending to the will of the dark forces than you might imagine. There were compromises that had to have been made because the people at the top were scared. And honestly, those on the other side I know usually refer to them as chickens. I mean, yeah, I know that's maybe not the best way to refer to your kids, but yeah, when they talk about the leaders of the Mormon Church, they talk to them about they refer to them as chickens. That they had the ability, they had the knowledge, they had a lot of stuff to stand up and make this better than what it was, and they would have been helped more. But as it is, they are too in bed with the people that are making threats against them. That's just how it is. And then going back to where I said there's some very serious stuff going on with the Catholic Church. Well, you look at where it came all out of. Who was more in charge, the Romans or the Jews? Romans. Jews were doing what the Romans told them to do, basically. I mean, the Romans were the power. And it's not an accident that the Catholic Church came out of Rome, the center of power of the political world. It just translated its political power into religious power that was, as you know, very far-reaching. We will go into more of what this means for the future. The last days, what has happened recently. Well, I'll just give you a hint. I'll try to get a link to this, but there's videos that hint along with showing that the Pope is doing dark things that harken back to days of sacrificing babies. I know that sounds weird, it sounds awful, and it might turn you off completely right there, but there are some dark things that they're doing. If you remember back to what I said about the Christianity being forced upon us, the leadership at the highest levels of our society down here still resents that. And they've been getting more powerful, getting stronger, getting too big for their britches. And as unlikely as this sounds, yes, they did declare war on God. So you could say, well, how in the world can the Pope and the other leaders of the world declare war on God? Well, simply because they know more of the truths behind it, and they know that it isn't really God. They know that it's a race of somebody that's been down here involved. They don't know the full story. They don't know what I've been telling you. But they do know. Why do you think the Catholic Church has the telescope that it helped fund in Arizona? They know that religion was forced on them. And they are preparing to do what they got to do. And so this is one of the reasons why it's important. You take the LDS and you take the other miscellaneous Protestant groups. And if you're Christian and don't know which ones I'm talking about, you're probably Protestant if you don't know what label you are. And I just put that in the middle group. Yeah, I know there's differences, huge differences, but the Protestants, I'm sorry, you've been infiltrated too. Hate to break it to you, but yeah, you've been infiltrated too. Any big church has been infiltrated. Flat out. Period. Doesn't matter how Protestant and against Catholicism you are. You've been infiltrated. And the Catholics, of course, you've been infiltrated. I mean, from the beginning. So, the reason why this is important is because the animosity between Catholic and all of the top leaders and the ancient mystery religions and all of them that lead at the very, very top, they're much like the ancient Egyptians were. They want to tell our side where to go and how to get there. And so, yes, you could say in a manner of speaking, the Pope did declare war on God. And I will link to the video, one of the videos in which you can see some of the symbolism starting to come out. And a lot of this is behind the scenes and things you won't see, but it's no uncertain terms. This happened already. And because of that basic declaration of war, of we're going to fight you and we're going to win type attitude, this is one of the reasons why the people at the top of every religion are going to be getting less inspiration than they were. Inspiration will be coming to the middle and to the lower levels. To the higher levels, they get what only they absolutely need. And there's going to be less and less and less of it. Because if you're fighting against us, if you're fighting against your parents, if you're fighting against the eternal society from which you came, even if you don't really know it, then you're just not entitled to as much inspiration. You're just not. Inspiration, revelation, the good thoughts are for people who are honestly trying to come closer, not who are trying to fight it. That's just how it is. And when you're a part of these big organizations, you have to understand, it's a huge organization. It will give plenty of ways in which it's going to bring some content and some good stuff to your life that you would never be able to have otherwise. It's going to be able to organize camping trips and picnics and social events of any type, not just one type or another, but any one of those religions is going to be able to do things like that. It's going to bring peaceful people together that like being peaceful. But it is also going to be divisive. It's going to be intentionally so. It's going to make sure that you can tell the other person that their religion is not as good as your religion and that they're most likely going to go to hell. And it's going to tell that you can tell the Mormons that they're just evil and going to go to the devil or the Catholics or Protestants or who knows who. And I'm sorry, you people, can you not see that it's all just different shades of a very similar thing? Mormons have inspiration. Catholics even, there's Catholics have inspiration. There was a lot of stuff given to them. Protestants have inspiration. You know what? And none of the above does too. Every thinking and feeling person that really is honestly trying is going to be given something. And it's going to be different than what everyone else has. So, you know what? Learn to hear, learn to listen, learn to feel, and learn to appreciate the knowledge that's given to others. Because if you work together with others, you will get more knowledge and you'll get more inspiration. And it's designed to help bring us closer together. We need each other. And we can't be so limited as to just pick on each other. That's the design of this. It's to separate and divide and conquer. We can't give in to that. Other things is the religions are meant to control you, to make you a sheeple, make you not as able to think outside the box or to say no to your leaders. I'm sorry, if you feel strongly about something, then say no to your leaders. And, sometimes that's not right, but you can't be a sheeple either. Because they intentionally the religions are meant to control you, meant to put you into certain things so that it dulls your senses, it dulls your ability to question yourself. You aren't as free to just raise your hand and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. We're often wrong, but, and maybe going off and being crazy is just being crazy. But the thing is, there's too many people that are more, I mean, if you are more excited about talking about football than you are about some of the interesting things that you've seen and felt on the other side, from the other side, well, I'm sorry that you haven't felt and experienced enough from the other side yet. Because it's a whole lot better than a football game. And this is what I get from church, is that I get a lot of other people who just sit there, sometimes are passionate, but way too often are too content to stay in the narrow-minded views of hating each other and finding reasons to not like the other religion, or not like the person that's not in a religion, or to not like this person, to not like that person. I'm sorry, life's too short for that. But enough of me and my soapbox. This is the general stuff about what you need to watch out for. Next video, what we're going to try to do is talk about the plans for the end times. What's going to happen? We obviously need to get a resolution to this. Our world's getting destroyed slowly but surely. They're doing a lot of stuff to us. What's going to happen to the evil? What's going to happen to the good? Are people just going to disappear? Well, you're just going to have to see, because I'm going to talk about that next video. Talk to you later.